Welcome in, everyone. It is Thursday, January 22nd. And in case you haven't heard, which I'm sure you have, we have a winter storm on the way. And probably the best way to start out, which is not the greatest way to start out from a news standpoint, but it's not looking great. But I'll talk about that. It is a little more icy than I'm going to want it to be. But all is not lost. But just wanted to throw that out there. Our initial thoughts earlier in the week were sleet and snow. We always thought we are gonna get some freezing rain, but we were hoping it wasn't a whole lot. And it still may not be a whole lot, but it's just trending in the wrong direction. And we'll go over all that. So I want to start with this map because this is a temperature map of the United States. And it's probably a little hard to read, but we're in the low to mid 50s here in Dallas. And hello, Oliver. And I put old Oliver up there. Glad you joined us. In the 50s now, you creep up in Oklahoma 40s, Kansas 40s, 30s, Nebraska 20s, teens. And then we get up into South Dakota, North Dakota especially. By the way, it's not 82, I promise. It is in the negative 20s. Now, negative 20s aren't headed our way, but cold weather is definitely headed our way. We're going to talk about all of that. But so that's where we're at right now. 24 hours from now, these temperatures will be quite a bit different, to say the least. Let's go to the headlines first. So we have the last few days, I've talked about the winter storm watch that we have. We now have a winter storm warning that's not in effect yet. It is in effect for the northern part of Texas, where you see this black line from 6 p.m. tomorrow to 12 p.m. noon on Sunday. Now, you may be saying 6 p.m. tomorrow, that's when everything's going to be iced over. No, that's just when the potential is going to really ramp up. So, what the Weather Service has done is defined the winter storm warning is that it's mainly for snow and sleet, 1 to 3 inches possible. Now, that's a combination. That's not necessarily all snow. 1 to 3 inches, isolated 5 inches. Again, sleet and snow, not just snow. But the more concerning thing to think about is the ice. Quarter to half inch, isolated up to 3/4 of an inch. I A quarter of an inch, which is the low end of what they're talking about, will cause a lot of problems. Anything above that, I don't even want to think about. It just means power outages and your favorite tree, big tree, being snapped in half, things like that. So we don't want to see that. And I'm not saying we're going to see that, but it's definitely a possibility. So, and in Central Texas, if you know people that live down there, your loved ones, your friends, the winter storm warning is in effect from 6 a.m. Saturday to noon on Sunday. Not near as much snow and sleet up to an inch. Same icing potential, a quarter to a half inch up to 3/4 of an inch. I think it goes without saying that if half of this verifies, you're not gonna be able to drive anywhere. So I would take care of stuff now as opposed to later. Speaking of which, so before we get into all the other weather details, I always like to talk about this and it's just prepare. I hope most of you have prepared already. If you haven't, the good news is that you can still do that. You're just running out of time. Now, we're going to talk about timing here in a second, but tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, you should be able to do anything you want to do as far as travel, work, home, school. Yes, there will be school tomorrow. I doubt there will be early dismissal. That's my opinion. So just prepare for a regular day in that sense. But between now and then, between now and sunset tomorrow, just make sure you got non-perishable food. Like I said, I'm not saying that everybody's going to be without power for 5 days. I hope that's not the case, but you just have to at least prepare for that. And so, bring your pets indoors, have your warm blankets, have a first aid kit, which you should always have. Uh, Check your phone for your alerts. By the way, make sure your phones are charged up pretty much between that. pretty much between now and whenever, because if you do lose power, you're not gonna be able to charge your phone. On your home, check your heaters, your smoke alarms, your carbon monoxide detectors, and I would urge you if you don't have a carbon monoxide detector, although it may be too late to buy one now. Uh, if you have a fireplace, you definitely want to have a carbon monoxide detector in your house. It also goes without saying, cover your outdoor pipes, drip your faucets. Not right now, but when the temperature gets below 25, 20, keep warm indoors, close your doors, seal your doors and windows. They're probably already sealed. Don't use well, be careful, I should say, about heating using portable heaters and generators inside. Make sure you have plenty of flashlights, batteries, things like that. In your vehicle, I once it starts precipitating of the frozen variety, you're probably not gonna be out in your vehicle much, but if you if you somehow are outside in your vehicle, just have a full tank of gas before you go out. Same thing, phone, first aid kit, cell phone charger, jumper cables, blankets, the whole drill. So with that, let's talk about the details. So when will conditions get bad? Like I said, as you can see from this graphic, this dark line here, Friday, except for maybe Gainesville, Sherman, Denison, around 10 p.m., you might start seeing some freezing rain. But right now, the forecast is that we would not see any of that in DFW, Waco, anywhere else in North Texas. It's subject to change, but right now, that's what we're thinking. Now, as we get into the overnight hours on Saturday, again, north to south, you can see rain, freezing rain, sleet, sleet being orange, freezing rain being yellow, sleet and snow being red. 2 a.m. in DFW, freezing rain is likely to start. Now, by the way, before that, it's going to be liquid, you know, the regular rain variety. So it's not like it's going to be dry, but it's going to be wet. Then they're looking at a rain sleet mix, and then hopefully all sleet at 10, and then or at least a sleet freezing rain mix, and then sleet and snow after noon on Saturday. What we want to hope for, whatever area that you live in, is it anything where it says freezing rain in the yellow, basically. You just don't want that to last too long, because the longer that lasts, the more ice it will accumulate. And the more ice it accumulates on power lines, trees, things like that, then that's where you can have impactful damage from a power line and tree standpoint. So again, to reiterate, tomorrow morning for the vast majority of North Texas, you can go do anything you want. If you need to go that last minute trip to the store, if you need to do whatever, travel for work, school, you're going to be able to do that. It's going to be cool and then cooler, really cold toward the end of the day, but it's all going to be liquids. You shouldn't have any problem getting anywhere you want to get. Now, from a more graphical standpoint, this is what the map looks like. Again, right now, this is the most likely scenario. We're going to see this is Friday evening, so that's why the freezing rain sleet would be northwest of Dallas Fort Worth. As we get into overnight Saturday morning, freezing rain sleet. Saturday afternoon, evening, this sleet will encroach on DFW, and then the snow. Yes, it will snow more Sunday morning. And let me get my comment here from Miss Long. I know I have to get through this, but the Weather Channel app shows snow next Friday, 1 to 3 inches of it. Please tell me next week it's going to be nicer than that. I was hoping people wouldn't see that. Well, I will briefly depart from this weather scenario to answer Kara's question. There's a couple models picking up on that, and for now, we'll just leave it at this: is that if the model trend continues for that next Friday, then it wouldn't be an icing situation. It would be all snow. Now, sounds great in, in a vacuum, but if this storm is really bad, I don't know that we'll be ready for winter again that quick. So possibility, but nothing to be too concerned about yet, Kara. So I'll be on top of it. So, but thank you for asking. And Beth on Instagram, I appreciate that. I can't put her comment up, but thank you for always keeping us informed. You're very welcome. All right. So this is a map that I want to show for freezing rain. This is the chance of flat ice accumulation exceeding half an inch. Remember, the winter storm warning criteria was a quarter inch to half inch. So they're taking the half inch as the bar. So if you look on the side, the very light pink is less than 15%. The not so light purple, 15 to 30%. In the darker purple, not dark, dark, but the dark or next darker purple is 30 to 50. And then the dark pink is above 50%. Luckily, right now, Dallas Fort Worth as a whole is you're talking about a 15% chance to see ice exceeding half an inch. Remember, even if it's a tenth of an inch, that ain't good. Uh, not ready for another one. Yeah, well, it's kinda funny because we haven't had this one yet, and we could have another one. But yes, I will stay on top of that. So, but as you can see, though, the trend on this particular map from an ice accumulation standpoint is that, yeah, right now they're thinking the heavier impacts, uh, well, I say impact, the heavier amounts of ice would be south of Dallas Fort Worth, Hillsborough, Corsicana, and then on into East Texas. And right now, if things verify the way they think they will, d- uh, East Texas will get it a little harder. But man, it is so hard to pinpoint down exact locations because the thing is, most of Dallas, as an example, most of Dallas County could be, not too bad ice wise, but there could be a little pocket in Dallas County that gets hammered, in a very small geographical area. So that's what's so crazy about winter storm. It's almost like from a severe storm standpoint, it's like the hailstorms. You could have one area that gets, the golf ball size hail. It varies, within like just a quarter mile radius. And then everything around it, it's like it either didn't hail at all or it's like pea size. It's the same sort of thing here. You can get these bursts of heavier winter precipitation. So one area could really get hammered, and then an area not that far away would be like, what's the big deal? So that's another thing you have to keep in mind. And these maps cannot predict that. They cannot show that. We just don't have the science to do that. Okay, so it's another graphical or another graphic, I should say, that's good. So again, this quarter to half inch ice. I know the red and darker reds don't probably show up very well, but the darker red is the greater chance for the half inch and three-quarters inch ice. Again, that's kind of East Texas, Greenville, Tyler, Longview type air, not Longview, Tyler, Canton, things like that, and Waxahachie. And then down south of Waco, just a tenth of a quarter of an inch. And again, a tenth can still cause a lot of problems. But that's what we're looking at right now. And then when we have this transition over to sleet and then ultimately snow, this is what we're thinking. Uh, Most of Dallas Fort Worth would be in the 2 to 4 inch sleet and snow mix. I want to emphasize that is that when they say 2 to 4 inches, they're not talking about all snow, they're talking about sleet and snow mix. 3 and 5 inches up near Sherman, and then 1 to 2 and one down south. So here's what we need to think about. So the critical window for whether we just get a little bit of ice and then it changes over to sleet and snow, which is not a big deal. I mean, it's a big deal, but not from a power standpoint. Then this is what you have to watch for. So right now, the time frame is, and I'll go back to that graphic. So, like I said, the yellow here is basically trying to help you visualize how long it would the rain would be freezing rain. So if you took this graphic, and it's not going to happen just like this, this is just the way it is. But if you just, as an example, if you took it as it's going to happen this way exactly, then the rain would transition over to freezing rain in Dallas Fort Worth, 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. And then, if you want to be literal, to 10 a.m. So if that were to verify, now again, the rates of it could be, it's not gonna be pouring the whole time, I'd say, but just freezing rain. Then that's, you know, what is that? 6 hours, 7 hours, well, 8 hours actually, of a prolonged period of freezing rain, whether it's light, moderate, heavy. What we want to see to minimize that is that we just want that window to be shorter, because once it transitions over to sleet, it won't go back to freezing rain. So Once it transitions over to sleep, we don't have to worry about that. It's just that what will happen between or during the time that it's well, between the time it's rain and sleep, which would be freezing rain. That's what we have to watch out for. If we can get that window to be shorter, then the impact won't be as much. If that window is longer than we want it to be, then the impacts will be greater. That's what we got to watch for. So hopefully it will be a short window. Now the other thing that we need to talk about is the cold. We all know it's going to be cold, so we know that. But I think what some people and talking to people I've talking to people today, I don't know that everybody gets a sense of how cold it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be as cold as 2021. So I'm not saying that. But come Saturday night and Sunday night, which is Saturday night, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Monday morning, the wind's not gonna be 30 miles an hour, but it's gonna be 10, 15, 20. And when the temperatures are that cold, the wind chill is crazy low. So Saturday night, the what we're thinking in North Texas is the minimum wind chills might be 0 to -8 below. As I said the other night, wind chills in North Texas don't get below 0 very often. So that will get your attention. Sunday night into Monday, it'll be a little colder. So wind chills could be on the high end, -4 to -12. Now, those are just they're not gonna be exact like that, but it's gonna be in that ballpark. That doesn't happen very often. And then you can kinda make out like the low temperature Saturday night would be 14 if this forecast verifies, and then the low temperature Sunday night, Monday would be in Dallas Fort Worth would be on average would be 6. And with the wind, that's why you get the wind chill potentially of -5, -10. That's why we have an extreme cold warning in effect. That's when they issue that when they think the wind chill, or quite frankly, the temperature, but the wind chill is going to be -10 or lower. And we will definitely see that in parts of North Texas. So I don't think a lot of people are going to be outside enjoying the weather, but if you go outside for any extended period of time during this time period, just dress appropriately. All your skin has to be covered. And by the way, everybody's going to go out at some point and kind of see what's going on. So I get that, but just please layer up. Don't have any exposed skin because you can go downhill faster than you think if you're not, if you're not protected. So there you go. There is the gist of things. Now, let's look at some models. And I always say that these are models, these are not forecasts, but they do help give you an idea of what we can expect. All right. So, as I mentioned last night, we are now, well, I mean, not technically. If the frozen precipitation doesn't happen until after midnight tomorrow, then we're not quite within the 24-hour window, but we're close. So these short range models are coming into play. They are not. They don't have enough range yet to go through the whole event through Sunday night, Monday. But we definitely get a better idea because they're the short range models. So we're going to start with the Ace Triple R high resolution rapid refresh for the weather nerds out there, and I think of this one a lot because it's really I love it for severe weather, but it does it has an okay track record for winter, but man, we're gonna look at it regardless. So this is current, and let me make sure I have the latest. I do. Okay, so I'm just gonna get you to a point in time. So this is tomorrow, about sunrise, give or take. Actually, a little bit. No, that's 4 a.m. My bad. This is sunrise. Or well, one more. There you go. Good old fashioned liquid rain. I hate that. Rain is liquid by definition. So. And through the day, like that's what I was saying the other day, or earlier, I should say, is that most of the day tomorrow, you don't have anything to worry about. As you can see, however, you see those. I love pink and purple, but not in this case. So you start to see those creep in, and this would be midnight Friday night, Saturday morning, and as you can see, that purple is encroaching on the metroplex. And as we kind of go through, we just see a little bit more of that. And this would be, let me get to, that'd be 10 a.m. on Saturday. And then that's where it stops. But you can kind of get an idea there's another wave coming. So there actually may be a little bit, if the H triple R is right, there may be a little bit of a break uh, Saturday at some point, but it's not going to be a long one. So that's one perspective. Another perspective is the North American model. Now, this is the high resolution North American model because again, it's within the short. We're within 24 hours, 24 36 hours of the event. Now I'm going to back this up a little bit. And again, this is current, and also I'll just double triple check. Got the latest. And again, this is tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon. You start to see those purples and reds. This is midnight. So real similar to what the H triple R was saying. And then as you can tell, it just creeps on south, southeast. Now, just for clarification, the blue here is snow, like pure snow, nothing mixed with it. So it's way up in Oklahoma. The red on this model represents sleet, and then the purple is freezing rain. So the North American model, which is okay at winter weather, it's kind of saying, hey, it's not really going to freeze and rain much. It's just going to sleet. And if it doesn't get a lot of freeze and rain before it sleets 7 inches, not the greatest scenario, obviously, but give me that all day long. You don't have the icing concerns when that happens. So it's going to be messy for sure, but no real snow in this one, at least not yet. Speaking of snow, this is the European model. Now, this is a total snow forecast. It's hard to see, but right there. Well, at the airport, 4.2, but if the Europeans do believe, then don't go too far north and you get 10 inches. Now, these models do have a hard time when it's sleet and snow, so probably a little bit of combination of both. But so this will change. This will be after the transition happens because you're gonna have basically 2 different transitions. Well, 3 really. It's going to start out as rain. Then it's going to transition to freezing rain at some point, and then it's going to transition to sleet, and then it's going to transition to snow. So what is that, 3? It's been a long day. So this is saying after the storm's over, this is what the total sleet snow accumulation would be. For the Metroplex, the Weather Service obviously doesn't think it'll be that much in Metroplex proper, but yeah, winter storms, like I've always said, winter storms are notoriously hard to predict and forecast in North Texas. Back to Kara's point, if she's still watching, this map is interesting because look what happens. Now, this is just through Monday. Now, this is like I said, this is European, so this is their longer range model. What? So it went from 4 point whatever to 13 inches. Now it's total. So the European model is, I just threw this in here because I was looking at this model and I thought, what's going on? And so, yeah, it thinks that it will snow next Friday and give us an additional, if you do the math, an additional 6-ish, 7 inches of snow. Okay, Kara. So so that this model accounts for your snow thoughts on next Friday. So one model likes your forecast, or not your forecast, but likes that possibility. So the GFS, now this is a coarser model. It's not as refined. It's a long-term model, but I did want to show it though, because it is a little different than the other ones. Excuse me. And again, going forward in time, this is Friday at midnight, Saturday morning at midnight. And yeah, I like that. I gotta put that comment up there. Yeah, let's not do that. So the purple here is freezing rain. In this case, the red is sleet and the blue is snow. Now this is a coarser model, so that's why it's not as refined. But again, it shows the same thing. And then on the back end, which is Sunday, actually, let's see, that'd be Sunday morning. Transitions to snow. And I don't think this model does what Kara was talking about. Nope. Yeah. So that's this model's that's Friday. It's like, what are y'all talking about? That's why models are models and not forecasts. And then, of course, my favorite toy is the ensemble model. I say model. It's just it's the inner workings that make up the ensemble model. So if you've watched the past couple of nights, got 1 through 20, and it's hard to read because it's small. But if we just go to that's midnight on Saturday, all 20 show, well, except for maybe 13, but it's right on the border, show frozen precipitation in North Texas. And then as we move on into Saturday, this just goes to show you that it's going to precipitate in a frozen variety. So that much we know. So snow and snow is going to stay for the pure snow, if you will, is going to stay in North Texas. Going to stay in Oklahoma. I wish it would stay in North Texas. Let's see if that little snowstorm shows up that Kara was talking about on January 30th. Yeah, there it is right there. So that's why well, actually there's in two spots. So maybe three, but that's West Texas. But Ensemble 16 says Kara is very perceptive. But as you can see, the rest of them are like, what are y'all talking about? So, like I said last night, someone was bringing it up last night. It's let's get through this one and then and then we'll worry about that. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at. The changes, I'll go back to the other graphic here. The changes from my update last night, the gist of it is last night we were thinking that it would be a more of a sleet storm in total, not as much freezing rain, but right now that has trended more, at least initially, more toward a freezing rain event. It's still sleet and snow, but just more than we want. Hopefully, when we do this again tomorrow, it'll be more back to sleet and not so much freezing rain. I don't have anything to base that on except just a hope. We're not entombed in ice. I think the best way to think about this forecast right now, for those of y'all who were here in 2013, we had I wouldn't call it crippling, but we had a pretty decent ice storm in 2013. I think it was December, I think, if I remember. And that was for the roadways when it all started melting and reforming. It was kind of labeled the cobblestone ice event. And if you remember that, which is no fun to drive on, by the way. That was before TxDOT did brine, so hopefully with them doing brine, that won't be the case if that comes to fruition. But right now, if you're looking for comparisons, that is probably the best one I have right now. You probably saw some potential comparisons from some people from 2021. I still don't see that. I will say though that from Wednesday evening to now, which was yesterday, my days are so messed up because of the holiday on Monday. It's definitely trending colder. We weren't looking at below zero wind chills early on in the forecast, and we weren't looking at temperatures in the low single digits. So I will say it's definitely trending colder. But I don't see it near as long either. So I just don't think that's a fair comparison. I do think the 2013 storm is a more fair comparison. That wasn't crippling. It wasn't great, but that wasn't crippling, at least from my recollection. Not where we were, but it's not great either. So before we wrap it up, and if you got a question in the chat, whether you're on Instagram or on the other channels, you got a question, put it in the chat. I'll try to answer that before we go. So just a quick summary for people that are just joining us. We have a winter storm warning that takes effect on Friday at 6 p.m. tomorrow to noon on Sunday. The hazards in North Texas are 1 to 3 inches of sleet and snow mixed, isolated amounts of 5. Our ice potential is a quarter of an inch to a half inch. Isolated amounts up to three-quarters of an inch. And the rule of thumb is a tenth of an inch of ice causes a lot of problems. So we do not want to see quarter of an inch. We sure don't want to see the rest of them. Central Texas from 6 a.m. Saturday to noon on Sunday, not as much sleet and snow. Same amount of ice, though. So that's where we're at with that. Timing, this will change. Probably not a lot, but this will change. Nothing much to worry about tomorrow. Nothing much to worry about until overnight hours on Saturday. And I'm mainly focusing on the Metroplex. But if you live in these other areas, pay attention. Sleet mid morning Saturday, and then a sleet snow mix after that. And then probably all snow overnight on Saturday, Sunday morning. And a little bit more graphics here. Ice accumulation is pretty much everywhere in North Texas to some extent. Sleet and snow makes northern parts of North Texas. It's going to be cold. And I would say life threatening cold if you're outside and you're not protected. That is true. Lows on Saturday night, teens. Lows on Sunday night, single digits. Not just north of here, everywhere in North Texas. Wind chills Saturday night in North Texas, 0 to -8 below. Sunday night, -4 to -12. That is not anything that we should have to mess with what we do. Yeah, I got thank you, Mr. Tucker. I really appreciate that comment. I try to make it quality. And I will say this before I sign off. You're going to you probably already have. You've heard a lot about this storm. I'm sure you've heard the extremes on both ends. Although I doubt you've heard a lot about, hey, it's just going to rain and that's it. I doubt you've heard that. But that there's one lone model that shows that is I don't think it's going to happen. I don't need to show it. That would be quite the curveball if that happened. I just don't see that. I'll leave you with what to look for and what to be concerned about. Other than your usual, hey, prep for the cold. If you haven't been to the store yet, I don't know why you're waiting. I went to Kroger today here in Saxe and in the mid morning, and I can only imagine what it's like now. Because even then, it's like, wait, where are you people doing here? So it's not too late, but yeah, it's don't wait too much longer if you haven't done it. Wrap those pipes, wrap those faucets outdoors, and all that. But here's some easy things for you to look for the next day or two to know how potentially bad it might or might not be. And I am actually, before I do that, I'm going to show this graphically because I'm just going to go back to the temperature map that I showed you because it'll be easier to show it that way. There we go. Find it here. There we go. Okay. So, two things that just keep in the back of your head. When the Arctic front arrives and how long of a duration is the freezing rain. Those are the two, in my opinion, those are the two most important variables to look for in relation to how bad the ice storm could or could not be. And I should say an ice storm could or could not be. What we thought earlier in the week, which was good, even early part of yesterday, that the Arctic front would be here like around sunrise. And then colder air would start earlier. The depth of the colder air would get deeper quicker because it all depends on when the initial cold air gets here. Then that would shorten the duration of freezing rain. Now, if it doesn't come through till noon-ish, then it's going to take longer for that cold air to deepen above the ground, which would change. It would take longer to change the freezing rain to sleet. So that's the key to the ice part of it. Everything else is going to happen regardless. But I know it sounds a little weird, but hope that the Arctic front gets here sooner rather than later. That's going to cool us off in the all levels of the atmosphere quicker. So, and yet you have to time that with the disturbance coming through. So that's how that works. And however, if it doesn't come through as quick as we want, then we could, depending on how the disturbance, when the disturbance moves over North Texas and how deep the cold air is at the time, and that's going to tell us all I need to know. So right now, it's just if I had my druthers, I'd wake up to the front being here. But right now, I don't see that being the case. Not out of the question, but I don't see that being the case. And the reason I say that is because right now it's hard to tell because just by temperatures, but temperatures in Kansas, like Salina, for example, is 37, and the wind's northeast at 8, so it's not there yet. Now, fronts don't have a problem going south, as the late great Harold Taft, yes, for us really old people, used to say, "There's nothing stopping cold air coming from Canada except barbed wire fences," and that's not going to stop it. And so, it's not. You can tell it's not even to Kansas yet. So, I wish it was. I wish it was. You get into Nebraska, you got northeast wind at 14 knots, only northeast to 8. So you could argue it's probably not Nebraska yet, but then you can start to argue that it's probably somewhere in South Dakota, -10, so forth. So, and in Minnesota, yeah, it's definitely there. Uh, and then in North Dakota, yeah, I think this -22. No, it's -26. -26. Northwest at 15, wind chill 53 below zero. We won't see that. That's how cold this air is. Okay, so you know what to look for, timing of the front, and how long the freezing rain lasts. Again, if you have stuff you have to do tomorrow, you're going to be able to do that. It's going to be rain all day. Maybe not literally all day, but most of the day. And then I'll be on tomorrow night, Lord willing. And I imagine at this time tomorrow we'll be saying, "Hey, where's that freezing rain line at?" We'll talk all about it. So, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I love you guys, and I just try to do the best I can in giving you just kind of straight up weather, not the hype and the worst case scenario and all that. But I do want you to be prepared. And if you have questions, feel free to message me. I'll try to check the chat on this one as long as I can tonight. If something crazy happens between now and tomorrow night, I will let you know about it. Weather-wise, it is. And yeah, we'll go from there. Remember this: if you're prepared, we can't control the weather. If you're prepared, you'll be fine. And it is something that is if it's more ice than sleet that we want, it's not going to be a lot of fun. But by the same token, it's not going to last forever. And we'll all get through this, and we're all great about helping each other, and we'll do that just like we always do. And I will do my part to keep you informed about the weather, any concerns you should have, especially any changes. It's very ironic that this happens in La Nina winters. As you know, the vast majority of this winter has been like what winter? We do get these outbreaks, short term outbreaks during La Nina winters, and this is exactly what that is. It's like, okay, this is our shot of winter that we get, and then not that it's going to be 60 on Tuesday, but we just, yeah, this is what you get with La Nina, and we're going to be fine. We're going to deal with it. All right. Well, if you have any other comments, I'll try to catch them later. I want to give Kelly a shout out. You're very welcome, Kelly. On my Instagram feed, I didn't see any other comments, but thank you for joining me on Instagram. There will be, you can watch this video on demand later. I do try to cut the video up a little bit to make it a little bit shorter. So I'll try to do that on my YouTube page. And then if you don't follow me on Facebook, follow me on YouTube. You can follow me on X. You can follow me on Instagram. You can actually follow me on Twitch. I'm there as well. And whatever your favorite social media channel is, you can probably find me. So with that, I'm watching Letter so you don't have to. Thank you so much again for everybody watching. We'll all get through this, no problem. And I will see you on the next one.